Good evening, everyone. So today is Fat Tuesday, or what Governor Pritzker calls Tuesday. On a recent podcast, former President Barack Obama claimed aliens were real, but he hasn't seen them. Well, that would make sense as they always probe me from behind. A new bill in Colorado is pushing to legalize prostitution. Here's a look at the bill. So easy. You people! Why? All right.
Well played.
CNN anchor Anderson Cooper is leaving 60 Minutes. It's rumored that Don Lemon is trying to fill his opening. And he wants his job, too. But see, it seems CBS is hoping to replace Anderson with someone who's more lively. Boy. During her trip to Munich, AOC was asked how the U.S. should respond to a Taiwan invasion, and she could barely answer the question. In fact, she froze so badly, Mitch McConnell asked if she was okay.
Wow.
In Munich, Hillary Clinton admitted that illegal immigration has been, quote, disruptive, but added that if anyone becomes a problem, you can just kill them. In a recent speech, President Trump said that the 60-ton M1 Abrams tank was named after Stacey Abrams.
Hilarious.
It's not unbelievable since she also has killed thousands of men by being on top. Excuse me. According to a report, Eric Swalwell once wrote an erotic poem when he was in college. We're just finding out about it now because it was written in Mandarin. Rosie O'Donnell recently returned from Ireland to secretly visit the U.S. While she claims she didn't tell anyone, authorities were tipped off by thousands of Bigfoot sightings. And finally, happy birthday to Paris Hilton, who turns 45. Yeah, that's 29 in doggy-style years. All right, so this week is the 35th anniversary of the only horror film ever to win the Oscar for Best Picture. No, not Thelma and Louise. Hey. Although that scary flick did show what happens when you let women drive. No, I'm talking about Silence of the Lambs. And now one of the stars apologized for the role that made him famous. Ted Levine played cross-dressing serial killer Buffalo Bill, who murdered women so he could wear their skin. I mean, even though it's cheaper just to buy it from Al Roker. Levine denounced the role, saying, quote, "I'm a lot wiser about trans issues. There are some lines in that script and movie that are unfortunate. It's just over time and having gotten aware and worked with trans folks and understanding a bit more about the culture and the meaning of gender. It's unfortunate that the film vilified that, and it's effing wrong." So the actor apologized for his character making trans people seem nuts, when he really should have said that the movie made serial killers look like a bunch of weirdos. One of the producers also crapped on the film, saying, "We weren't sensitive enough to the stereotypes and their ability to harm." Yeah, because the fictional character of a serial killer reflects badly on people who share the same traits as a fictional serial killer. So I guess Christian Bale owes an apology for making investment bankers look bad in American Psycho, Robert Englund for making janitors look bad in Nightmare on Elm Street, and Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct for making sluts look crazy. That is a terrible stigma to this day. But remember, Ted Levine is just an actor. He didn't write Silence of the Lambs, he just spit out the words. So who the hell is he to disown it? It's like a woke undergrad apologizing for singing Brown Sugar at karaoke, you know, when they meant to say sugar of color. But now you apologize, Ted. Great. Why not return all the money you made from that career boost, or the fame and the appearance fees for showing up at Comic-Con? Give back the sex with all the women not hot enough to get Anthony Hopkins. Fat chance. He's like Billie Eilish talking about stolen land. Neither are going to give up their house. But we've seen this before. Sarah Silverman apologized for jokes told earlier in her career. Hank Azaria for voicing Apu on The Simpsons. Jack Black and Gwyneth Paltrow did the same over the movie Shallow Hal. They're all generational cowards, throwing the past under the bus to appease today's no-talent whiners. Thank goodness Mickey Rooney isn't alive to apologize for breakfast at Tiffany's. The man was a genius. Bet you didn't know that was him. And how lame are they to think that today's standards are superior to those of the past? Why is that? Because today a man can pretend he's the opposite sex and get a trophy in women's swimming? But if you truly believe current standards rule, then how long before those are outdated too? In 2046, some kid with a Neuralink chip in his head might look at you and say, how the hell could your generation not define what a woman is? And you'll say, don't ask me, I voted for Trump. But while Ted's apologizing for a fictional trans killer, in the real world, we got real ones. 2 deadly shootings in 2 weeks. But instead of abandoning this mania, the elites keep polishing the delusion. Rachel Levine will be the keynote speaker at the American College Health Association. And to speak on what exactly? How to make your balls pass for a camel toe? Fool me once. I don't think anybody's going to be saying that on Outnumbered tomorrow.
Right, Emily? What do you think about it?
In Munich, Hillary moderated a panel on women's rights where she featured Sarah McBride, a dude who identifies as a woman. And that's taking the spot from an actual woman. But maybe they want men in charge of women. After all, you put women in charge of women, what do you get? Female Ghostbusters. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She talks so fast her tonsils set off speed cameras. Co-host of Outnumbered, Emily Campagno. His beard is a great place to store leftovers. Chef and restaurant owner Andrew Gruel. He looks like the guy who rounds up shopping carts in the parking lot. Comedian Ben Bacon. And what you call a telephone pole, he calls a Q-tip. Former NWA World Champion and host of Planet Tyrus podcast, Tyrus. Tyrus, I'm going to go out of order here because you
What? He's not even black. This is awesome. Yes. Making history in Black History Month.
How do you know?
What do you, okay, you know this movie backwards and
Back
forwards.
and forward. And
I had no idea the guy was trans.
he wasn't trans.
Yeah.
His pathology was 1,000 times worse.
Yeah.
He covets.
Yes.
He sees them and he covets them. He doesn't want to dress like them. He wants to wear them. It's a little different. He's not putting on a little ambrosia and a wig. He's wearing human flesh. I don't think that's they're literally, Anthony Hopkins gives it away. Quid pro quo. No, think, what does he want? He's trans. No, he's not trans because trans are passive. They don't look for confrontation. They're meek. With his pathology is 1,000 times worse, Clarice. Oh, yeah. You mean that big fat person? It puts the lotion in the basket. It put the lotion in the basket.
So
that was because he wanted to do what? Skin. If anything, we should go after him for fat shaming.
Yes.
He was taking fat women, putting them in a hole on a speed diet, and then he skinned them. I don't think at any time he ever said to them, you know what a woman is? You know.
By the way, I don't think that works as a diet plan, but I'm just going out on a
No, that's why she saw all the nails from the other chubby ones that were hungry and stuff.
But you know what you're saying, which is interesting? Ted Levine is actually the one on trans.
Yes,
by making the relationship between.
He covets. He coveted it. He coveted women, so he killed them because he was he didn't know there was no answer for what Wild Bill was.
Yeah.
He mimicked a lot of different things. So again, if you're gonna do that, at least it's in the movie.
Yes, and they did. This is what kills me, Ben, is that, like, Levine didn't write the book. It was written by is it Thomas Harris? I think he wrote it. It's like, how can you disown it? Is your phone going off?
Sorry, there's a lot of pressure in that
got
chair.
some serial killing to do later. Yeah, I mean, it's weird that it's all about, oh, now we further understand trans culture. And it's like, so what's trans culture? Shooting up a arena?
Yeah.
You know? No, but I mean, I'm serious. What is trans culture? Is it going to the wrong bathroom? Is it terrorizing the, Planet Fitness women's change room? What exactly is it?
Do you know what's funny about it? Is that before it was seen as a civil right, that never had to be a question. Like, trans people just lived anonymously. You could tell who they were in a bar. Nobody cared. But once it became a civil rights issue, then it became a culture. And then we were like, well, what is the culture?
Well, the culture, it's about, being who you truly are.
Yes.
And being who you truly are inside. And that's what we have. But, we have to respect that. But what about who I truly am? Mm-hmm. I'm a logical, rational person that knows what gender I am.
Yeah.
And that's apparently, the worst case scenario.
Yeah, in fact, you would be considered a transphobe. I noticed this, Andrew, that even after the shootings, there were people saying, like, this is just going to cause a reactionary transphobia. Why don't you think about the families that were killed by the...
They never think about the actual victims. That's what this comes down to. First of all, I have to say this and preface it. I was never allowed to watch Silence of the Lambs as a kid. And after watching Tyrus's rendition of it, now I know why.
Being
that was good.
It was scary.
Thank you.
Being a chef, it must be hard to watch Silence of the Lambs because the primary character is a cannibal. It might give you ideas.
Not just a cannibal, but do you know that the sale of ground lamb burgers after this movie came out just dropped? Nobody thinks about the lamb industry.
Yeah.
Right? All they think about is the trans industry. What about trans lambs? Right? And then subsequently, for people who like words, what about Trans Ams?
Yes.
Yeah.
So nice. I don't know, but I will say, why are we relitigating a movie from 40 years ago? Are we going to start relitigating Casablanca, Gone with the Wind? Mm-hmm. And then furthermore, why do the Democrats always have to support the person who's doing the killing and not the person that was killed?
Yeah.
They're always on the wrong side of every single issue. You go to a casino and they're gambling, right? Pritzker, perhaps.
Yeah.
Always bet against what the Pritzker or the Democrat is going to be putting their money on.
Yeah. Well, doesn't Pritzker have a sibling that is also trans, which is why he's like...
Oh, no, he's skinnier.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Greg, may I ask the chef a question?
Yes.
Chef, does liver and fava beans actually go together? Does that work?
With Chianti, remember? It was
I'll give them that. That was a really good flavor combination.
Okay, cool. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Greg.
Emily, you also often quote this movie in a very... You like the music. You're probably the only woman that talks about the music.
I love this movie so much, and also Shallow Hal. I feel like 8 of my favorite movies.
You would love Shallow Hal. Bullying a fat lady is your dream.
Because I eat like she does. All right, so first of all, you're absolutely right. This character was written in the book as an amalgam of many serial killers. It was based on a specific one that held women captive in his basement, on another as well that skinned his victims, and that was Ed Gein, I believe. And then there was also on Ted Bundy, who lured his victims by faking an injury.
Yes.
So you are right that the phobia, in my opinion, it's just like the veiled racism that we talk about with all these things, is them automatically assuming that's a transgender individual and automatically assuming it's part of the culture. Like, isn't the whole idea that all of these people seek to be unique and not lumped in with everyone else? So why should we ascribe a whole culture to them and assume anything? And if they would even have gone to the book, they would have seen, oh, this was based on a kaleidoscope of actual serial killers, so it has nothing to do with trans. Everything has to be about them. And going back to that panel you mentioned with McBride, the trans person, and Hillary Clinton, you know what the title of that was, by the way?
Yes.
Girls Just Want to Have Fundamental Rights, Fighting the Global Pushback. Bitch, that is exactly what girls are actually wanting. Real girls. Real girls, not fake girls.
I thought you were going to make fun of the title being Girls Just Want to Have Fundamental Change. Oh. Yeah, it's like they just want to... But you know what you made me think? Like, in the future, when AI robots are super intelligent, they're going to come after all the people that did anti-robot movies, right? They're going to go like, they're going to start going like all the science fiction movies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. They're all going to be the first to go. That's why James Cameron did Terminator 2. to make the Terminator robot good just to save his own skin.
And Avatar 74.
Yes.
Maybe if they made the movies more transphobic, more people would watch them like they used to. Maybe they'd even win an Oscar.
Yeah, that's true.
I just find it hilarious that they had to go 40 years back to find a movie to bitch about the trans thing.
Yeah.
And it's not like Buffalo Bill is like a pariah or he's part of the culture. Like, they don't wear shirts like, what would Buffalo Bill do? You know what I'm saying? Like, when in doubt, skin it.
There's a good trans character in a B movie called Freebie and the Bean. Nope, I got one guy that recognized it. At the end of the movie, I don't know who it is. James Caan gets in a fight in a bathroom with this trans dude who knows karate. Oh, it's so good. But I digress, and I reveal something about me that's a bit troubling.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.